Another Thunder Thursday from the News OK studios in Oklahoma City. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, here with our Thunder coverage team, starting from her strategically placed alcove in the News OK/Oklahoma newsroom, columnist Jenny Carlson.
Hello, I'm in the break room, so if you hear the microwave going, it means somebody's having lunch.
From his desk, just below me at 9000 North Broadway in the Oklahoma newsroom, Thunder beat writer Darnell Mayberry.
Hello.
Hi, Darnell. From close by to Darnell, his desk somewhere in the Oklahoma newsroom, columnist Barry Trammell. And from the appropriately named panic room, right across from me in the News OK studios, Thunder beat writer Anthony Slater. Thunder Thursdays are sponsored by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take that ride down I-40, save yourself some time and money. We'll start in the panic room. Anthony, they had to go to the wire to clinch the second seed. They had to go to the wire to beat the Detroit Pistons. Should there be panic in Oklahoma City?
I think a little bit of worry with how they're playing, but panic's when you're down 2-0 in a series. You're down 2-1 to Memphis, and Memphis, a team that's won 14 straight at home. I think that there's some worry how they're playing, the intensity they're playing with. But, I mean, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see these first two home games to really see how they come out before we start, popping the panic button.
Darnell, beyond last night's game, there seems to be a trend. Define it for us.
Poor defense, not getting out on three-point shooters, letting opposing guards get wherever they want on the floor, attack the paint defense and get inside the paint and create for themselves and others. It's just really a troubling trend right now going on with the Thunder's defense. They're not really doing much well on that end of the floor, and they're really struggling to contain point guards and they're leaving shooters open. So I think this Grizzlies team coming up is going to be a nice change of pace. They don't have the shooters that the Thunder has had trouble with. So in a way, this could be a good thing for the Thunder to get the Grizzlies in the first round.
Barry, they've been lit up by the following: Jody, Kobe Bryant Meeks. They've been lit up by Gerald, Michael Jordan Green. Last night, Kentavious Caldwell Pope. What gives? A bunch of guys that you didn't know really could score in double figures are getting in the 30s and 40s. Why is this happening?
Well, I mean, I think it's just I think we can chalk it up to just cosmic forces. If the same thing happens with Quincy Pondexter, they're just not focused on defense. There's any doubt about that. That's what our FD said. They're not getting out on the three-point shooters. There was a time they weren't getting back on defense. We saw that, a month or so ago. They're just in a defensive slump. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Can they flip the switch? I don't know, but we're going to find out, because here's the deal. If you let Memphis score on you, you're beat, because you're not going to get to 110 on Memphis. You're not going to get to 112. So it's just a case of, they need to snap out of this defensive slump. And what RFD said, though, is right, is at least Memphis doesn't appear to have the kind of sharpshooters that could just rain threes on you. Mike Miller is really the guy you have to worry about. Courtney Lee a little bit, but this is not like playing a Dallas or Phoenix where they just come at you from all sides.
Of course, Jody Meeks wasn't the kind of sharpshooter either. Kentavious Caldwell Pope. Jenny, you and I sat and watched the NBA draft in Detroit last summer. The guy sitting behind us, the guy who looked like James Harden's older brother, he wasn't all that fired up about Kentavious Caldwell Pope. The Pistons take him. I'd like to check back with him today, but Barry actually referenced flipping the switch. Do you think the Thunder can do it? Is it that easy with this team?
It's an interesting question. I think they can, and I think the fact that you'll go into the playoffs and have no minutes restrictions, no game restrictions, everybody knows they're playing as needed. Russell Westbrook, Thabo Sefolosha, Kendrick Perkins, bench guys, whatever they need in whatever situation, Scott Brooks is going to put those guys on the floor. So it's going to be interesting to see once they're sort of back to normal, if you will, does that change everything? I don't know if it ultimately changes getting out and defending guys on the three-point line. What Darnell said, I mean, the fact that, they've just not really guarded the perimeter the way that they need to. I don't know if that changes, but it has to for them to survive a long time. But I do think it'll be interesting to see once these guys are off minutes restrictions and sort of kick it back into gear. Does that make the difference? No back-to-backs, none of that. So I think there's a chance of that. But, man, with Memphis, I wouldn't want to lose one of these first two games and have the series head to Memphis for 3 and 4, with Memphis looking at a chance to maybe go up 3-1. If I'm the Thunder, I don't want to risk that. I want to win. I want to win both of these home games and make sure you defend home court.
So I want to throw this out to the group. There seems to be some disagreement among you. I know there's disagreement between Barry and Darnell and Anthony about how tough a matchup this is. I think there's some agreement that this is the toughest possible first-round matchup for the Thunder for various reasons, style of play among them. But from a prediction standpoint, Barry, let's start with you. Is this a long series? Is this something the Thunder can really get bogged down in?
Well, I'm picking the Thunder in 7, so I don't know if that constitutes a long series or not. But I think it's going to be just a dogfight. And if the Thunder gets out of it, no matter how they get out of it, I think it's got to be labeled a success, because I don't think Memphis is a true 7 seed. What were they, 40-19 since
40-19
since Marc Gasol came back? So I mean, they're clearly an elite team when they have all their guys. And the Thunder is too. What is it? Thunder 20-4 with their starting lineup this year. So this is 2 elite teams playing in the first round of the playoffs. Thunder generally has been better than Memphis when they have all their guys. But Memphis is tough, and they're determined, and they're veterans. So nothing easy about it.
Darnell, on the Thunder side, they go out in 5 games to the Grizzlies last year in the second round. Of course, Oklahoma City can say we didn't have Westbrook. From the Memphis side, they go out in 7 games 2 years ago, or was it? I'm sorry, 3 years ago, when the Thunder had James Harden, and that's what the Grizzlies and Memphis fans are saying now is, hey, you beat Oklahoma City beat us in 7 games when they had James Harden. They don't have that extra scoring option. And here you stand before you're on record as saying it's not that tough of a series. What do you think now?
They might not have James Harden, but they've got Reggie Jackson. They've got a much better Serge Ibaka. They've got Caron Butler. They've got some other young guys, and Jeremy Lamb, Steven Adams, guys who have shown that they can contribute. And also, Memphis doesn't have Lionel Hollins anymore. They've got a first-year head coach in Dave Yeager. We don't know what he's going to be, what type of playoff coach he's going to be in the postseason. So I think there's still a lot of question marks about this Grizzlies team that have yet to really have answers. I mean, we got to figure out how Dave Yeager is going to get these guys to play in the postseason. He coached the same team that Lionel Hollins coached. You expected them to still have a really good record in the regular season. But playoffs come down to matchups and coaches being able to put their players in the best position to succeed and dictating those matchups. I don't know if Dave Yeager can do that just yet.
Time to get a little plug in for our special section coming out Saturday. We're looking at the rivalry rankings and where this one, the Memphis-Oklahoma City, ranks as far as the Thunder's biggest rivalries. Anthony, you're quarterback in that project. We're going to actually have mathematical rankings for the Oklahoma City Thunder's rivals, but you're also writing a story about the key matchup in this series, to my mind, and it's Tony Allen versus Kevin Durant. That was a load for Durant last time. He really wore down seemed to wear down as that 5-game series went on. What's different this time?
Well, first of all, Russell Westbrook's back, which takes a load off Durant. Offensively, he doesn't have to carry them for 40-something minutes. He may have to carry them down the stretch because he's Durant and you want him to do that. But there's times in the game, there's pockets in the game he won't have to carry them. Plus, you talk about Tony Allen, and Tony Allen led that defensive effort. But Memphis was throwing the house at him. They were doubling them. They were kind of disguising things. Lionel Hollins, one of the best, defensive coaches in the NBA, was there. He's not there now. So I think – and I really think that series, while Durant struggled, I think it really helped him kind of identify that, and that's why he was better without Westbrook this season. But the fact that Westbrook is back clearly takes a load off Durant because Memphis can't just double and triple and just leave Russell Westbrook over in the corner, because you know what's going to happen if they do that.
Guys are also looking at a defining matchup in this series. That's Zach Randolph versus Kendrick Perkins. This is not likely to be one of those series where people wonder what Kendrick Perkins will have to do out there on the court. And Darnell, you're going to write about that matchup. It's part 3 of Zebo versus Perk. The last time they met during the regular season, I guess it was last year. How long ago was it? Meet you at the bus. And how is that going to play out this time?
Yeah, I believe it was last season, but I think those two guys, whenever they meet, there's animosity there. They're physical guys. I don't think they have anything personally against each other. I think they're just physical players that once they meet on the court, they're not trying to be friends. They're not trying to, do anything that outside of win and help their team win the game. So I just think those guys have that attitude that they bring to the game every time they play each other. And someone asked me on the chat today what the over-under would be on technical fouls in this series, and maybe that's something that we need to do in the paper, some kind of charter or contest, if you will, for the fans. So I put the over-under at 13.5 because could be a lot of technicals handed out in this series. Kevin Durant's getting them left and right this season. You got Kendrick Perkins, Zach Randolph, Tony Allen. It's going to be a physical series. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be entertaining. I think it's going to be one of the more entertaining first-round series, even though a lot of people feel like it's going to be like this defensive slugfest. It still can be entertaining.
Wait, 13.5, that's your over-under? Aren't you predicting this series to just go 5 games, Darnell? That's like, 2 or 3 technicals a game?
Hey, don't rule it out, Jenny. That's all I'm saying. Don't rule it out.
That seems high.
How many technicals happened in that Rockets Thunder game? There had to be at least 6 or 7 in that game, right?
Yeah, but that was all at one time. Everybody had to get it out at that point. I just don't see them having quite that many technicals. Now, if it's a 7-gamer, Darnell, maybe.
How about over under on the amount of times Nick Collison has to leave the court because blood is dripping from his top of his head?
There will be blood. There will be blood.
Yeah.
Speaking of Collison, guys, he was instrumental in that 7-game series way back when in slowing down Zach Randolph. I remember the game 1, Zach Randolph was on the cover of Sports Monday. I don't know, it was Jenny's column where somebody wrote, "Can anybody stop this guy?" What has been the Thunder's success in stopping Zach Randolph since then, and how do you think they'll do this time? Barry, you can start.
I think a couple things. I think Thunder has more defensive options than it once had. I think Ibaka's better than he used to be. I think Zach, while still a very effective player, is not quite the offensive machine he was down that stretch in 2011. I think the Thunder has used Perkins and Ibaka in a good way in which they're sort of interchangeable on defense. Sometimes they'll put Perkins on the bulky guy, sometimes on the taller guy. Steven Adams is a nice addition. And the Thunder has also showed that they're willing to play small, put one big guy on Randolph, and then have Durant, for a small amount of time, cover Marc Gasol, which creates defensive problems for the Grizzlies. So I think the Thunder has more defensive options than it did in previous years against the Memphises.
Darnell, what about stopping Zach Randolph? And is it possible that part of Zach Randolph's lost mojo over the Thunder is it seems like his outside shot is not quite as deadly or reliable as it used to be?
I think Nick Collison has showed his teammates the blueprint for how to stop Zach Randolph. And not stop him, but slow him down. And that's really to crowd him, take away his airspace, don't let him sit there and jab and pivot and pump fake. And really size you up. And that's kind of what he likes to do. Nick Collison has really led that charge. Serge Ibaka's taking the torch. Kendrick Perkins taking the torch. And even now you're seeing Steven Adams come in and really play that same type of style of defense. And I think now that all those bigs are really understanding how to get close up to him, body him up, not let him really read the defense and survey the court, they're really learning how to take away his options. And I think that's really what's made the Thunder become more effective.
Jenny, you made reference to removing the minutes limitations, I guess, on guys like Kendrick Perkins, who's come back. from an injury lately on Thabo Sefolosha. But most of all, the Thunder player most restricted in minutes the last month or so has been Russell Westbrook, who did not play at all last time against the Grizzlies in that 5-game series. Now it'll be Westbrook unleashed. What kind of Westbrook is in store for the Grizzlies?
Well, to me, we were talking earlier about Durant and the problems that he creates. And, obviously Tony Allen's done a nice job on him and probably will in this series. But to me, the thing that makes the Thunder a tough matchup is the combination of Westbrook and Durant. I mean, for opposing teams, you might have a guy that can handle one of those two, but you're not going to see many teams that have two defenders that can really handle those two. Memphis plays some really good team defense, but to me, it's going to be tough. I just don't foresee them being able to stop Westbrook and Durant to the extent that they can win this series. And, that's not to say Memphis isn't going to win a game or two or three in this series. I think that's entirely possible. But over the course of 7 games, I just think those two guys are too good together and too really detrimental to opposing defenses for this team not to ultimately win the series. So, I think Westbrook will be, looking to sort of make amends for not playing in the playoffs last year, a good chunk of the run that the Thunder did have. I think he wants to get out there and show just how elite and, talented he has become. People already know that to some extent, but this is really the time of the year when you earn that keep. So I think he's going to be very motivated. We know what happens when Russell gets knocking it into another gear, and I think he's in a better position to contain it and use it to his advantage. I think he's gonna be a big factor in this series for sure.
Anthony, what's better about the Westbrook the Grizzlies will see this time as opposed to the last time they faced him in a playoff series?
His floor vision this year has been really good. It was really good in December. I think he had something like 10 straight games where he was averaging about 10 assists before he went out. And when he's got back, his vision's been good too. I think maybe he said it too, sitting out and watching games and seeing maybe where guys like it. Maybe that helped him a little bit. He seems a bit more mature within himself this time around. I think sitting out maybe matures a guy, especially for a guy who didn't sit out even in high school. And he kind of has he's always had that kind of love for the game, but I think he's going to be really passionate in these playoffs because of what happened last playoffs, how quickly he knows it can be taken away from him. I think he's going to come out, with a fury in this postseason.
Barry, before we came on the Hangout, you were talking about the Grizzlies' team defense, something that sometimes looks impenetrable. So you've got their bear wrestling propensity, you've got their team defense, you've got these personalities, including Tony Allen, and you've got Russell Westbrook about ready to be unleashed, taking all the limits off of him. It seems like a powder keg. Is this going to be an explosive series?
Well, I tend to think that all playoff series that are competitive become pretty explosive. You get tired of each other. You get to know each other well. You start scraping and clawing at each other. You've got some very combustible personalities in this game. When you're talking about Kendrick Perkins and Russell Westbrook and Tony Allen and Zach Randolph, not everybody is men of peace like Kevin Durant and Marc Gasol. So I think it is going to be an explosive series in terms of, we were talking about the technical fouls a little while ago. I think it will be. I think there will be some bad blood develop. I think you'll see some emotions get the better of each other. But it's also serious business. So I don't think you'll see people crossing the line too much. But by the end of this series, I can promise you, Kevin Durant's going to be tired of Tayshaun Prince and Tony Allen, and Zach Randolph's going to be tired of Nick Collison and Kendrick Perkins, and that's just the way tough playoff basketball is.
And the Memphis coach is going to be tired of the music in Loud City. Jenny, what gives there?
Well, you're going to force me to say his name now, and I think it's Dave Yeager. Is that right, guys?
That's what I think it is, Yeager.
Okay, Dave Yeager.
My friend Doris Burt started his last name with a J last night, so that's the only way. That's the only thing I know.
So
I
is
think
that
that's a
so? Is it
mistake,
right,
but-
Barry? Is it
I
Jaeger?
don't have
Might
any
be
idea.
Jaeger. Might be
It's
Jagger.
It's Jaeger.
Okay, so anyway, the Memphis coach, whatever in the heck his name is, one of the last times that they were here, one of his first trips as head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, several times, 3-4 times, guys, he basically looked at the scorers table, at the guys that he perceived to be running the music and all of the audio stuff in the arena, and basically begged for them to please turn down the music. And I can't hear. I think he dropped a few choice words here and there. So I don't know. I mean, Darnell says that it's louder in Memphis than it is in Oklahoma City when it comes to the canned music. I don't remember that. That could very well be true. I've sort of become immune to it. Sometimes I think it's a little too loud, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know if he'll be begging for the music to be turned down or not. I think we'll have to wait and see, but clearly it adds another little layer of spice to this series.
Straight from the Memphis game notes. The correct pronunciation indeed is Jaeger.
Jaeger.
Thank you.
So your good friend Doris Burke was incorrect?
Doris Burke is my good friend, and if you're going to besmirch her name, we're going to have trouble.
Well, no besmirching, Doris, but let's talk about something the NBA did to Oklahoma City, which it said, hey, you know those Saturday night plans you've made all season? Don't have to worry about any Thunder conflicts? Here's some Thunder games on Saturday night. That's what's happening. The Thunder's got the late game on Saturday night to open the playoffs. It's got another Saturday night game. And in spite of the fact that they're set the Clippers, guys, right there on the West Coast and everything, and they slotted them in the afternoon and put the Thunder as a late game. Who wants to explain to me why this happened? Oh, the
I
humanity.
will. Los Angeles and San Francisco and Oakland compared to Oklahoma City and Memphis. I mean, I think the TV markets were obvious, and that's why the Clippers are in the 3:30 slot and the Thunder are in the 8:30.
But Darnell, wouldn't it figure if you were trying to cater to those West Coast audiences that you would put them in the late game so that they would have I guess they want them to have their Saturday night free instead of Oklahoma City.
Something about afternoon games, advertisers and television networks apparently feel like are a better opportunity for more viewers. So, not my area of expertise, but that just seems to be the trend that they like to have those bigger television markets in the afternoon game.
Well, there's a clear answer, and the answer is actually Saturday afternoon is a terrible time for television at this time of year, most times of the year. So the problem is ABC has one of the windows, not ESPN. It's an ABC national game, so they weren't going to put a dud on ABC. If I'd have known that ABC had a national game on Saturday afternoon, I could have guessed that Clippers-Warriors would be the one. So if this would just been a cable game, I think we would have had the Clippers play the late game, and the Thunder would have got the probably a 7 o'clock Saturday night game. But when ABC gets involved, it's going to get some top games, some name brand markets for their telecasts.
Guys, Barry's on record. 7 games, a 7-game series with the Thunder winning in 7. We haven't heard your picks yet. Let's start with you, Jenny. How's it going to go down?
Oh, man. I think I will pick the Thunder to win on home court in 5, but if they don't win one of these first 2, I think it's going 7. Or if they don't win both of these first 2, I think it's going 7. So I'll pick in 5, but I will amend if they lose either of these first 2.
Darnell, who you got and in how many?
I got the Thunder. I got them in 7. I think the Thunder is going to take care of business. I'm sorry, I got them in 5. I ain't saying 7. I got them in 5. I think the Thunder is going to take care of business in the first 2 games. I think they're going to get 1 of 2 out there in Memphis, come back, win game 5, close it out at home.
Anthony, who wins and in how many?
I'll split Barry and Darnell. I'll say Thunder in 6, and I'll say it's an important game 6 for the Thunder, going on the road in Memphis, closing it out and kind of springboarding themselves to where I think they're going, which is the finals, if they get by the Clippers, who I think is their biggest competition in the West.
Barry, the Thunder has won a playoff game in Memphis before, haven't they?
Yeah, they won that triple overtime game 2011. So took them extra time to do it, and that's the only one they've won. They've won what? They played 3 games there. They played 5 playoff games in Memphis, and they're 1-4, and they needed 15 extra minutes to get that one victory. So it's not an easy place to play in the playoffs.
You know what, guys? We're always talking about Memphis's defense as this juggernaut of a defensive team. The Thunder's a pretty good defensive team too now, and they're a much better offensive team. So I just think the Thunder has a much greater advantage. Barry, can you mute your mic? Thank you. I think the Thunder's got a much greater advantage because they're almost an equally good defensive team, if not better than the Grizzlies, and they still got much more offensive firepower. So I think we forget about that a lot of times when we talk about the Thunder.
The Thunder are a unique defensive team. They really bother teams like the Spurs, like maybe the Clippers, but I'm not saying they won't bother the Grizzlies because I don't think the Grizzlies are a very good offensive team, but their strengths on defense might not come out because, does length bother the Grizzlies as much, on swings and stuff? No, not really, because you're just dumping it down to the post and doing different stuff than other teams like the Spurs and Clippers.
I think we ought to let somebody else vote. I think we ought to let Jody Meeks and Cantankerous Caldwell Pope and Tyreek Evans and
Cantankerous.
Whoever else is out there. Who else? Gerald Green. Let those guys vote who's good on defense.
You've been sitting here for 20 minutes, sitting on that line. Cantankerous Caldwell Pope.
Correct.
You waited 20 minutes to fire it. Thanks.
But they haven't been.
Guys, that's all for this edition of Thunder Thursday, but you can stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. Thunder Thursdays are brought to you by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take that drive down I-40, save yourself some time and money. Thanks.